Outside of bare knuckle boxing, we've also had some interesting fights over the weekend. So we had Lomachenko getting a win over. Sorry? Yeah, the return of Loma against Nakatani.
I was so impressed with this fight. Lomachenko looked better than ever. I actually just thought he was piecing them up, and then when he got those knockdowns, and then finally when it came to round nine, just it. Let me just break down. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, the first four rounds went to Nakatani." Like, you got to understand that's what he does. He's the kind of guy who will piece you out. He will solve your game. He will figure out your game plan. He will cut, and he did that tremendously in those last few rounds where he was just cutting angles so quickly around Nagatani. All he could do was just grab hold of him, trying to stop him and slow him down. As soon as the ref would separate them, he would just pace him with that jab, get inside his range, and then circle around him and throw those big, heavy shots. And then it was a work of art. I mean, he sort of tricked Nagatani into believing that he had the fight on his own because he won the first four rounds at 10-9. And then come those last few rounds, that's when Lomachenko just, he let the floodgates open and just unleashed everything on top of him. And I just thought it was brilliant. What was your thoughts?
Definitely an interesting fight. Nagatani doing well in the first round. It is not uncommon for Lomachenko because it was a similar performance to when Loma fought Lopez. Now, what was interesting though is that he got the knockdown in the fifth round, but then continued to be patient, and then he continued his game plan, figured out Nagatani, and got the round 9 to TKO. What's even more interesting than that is that Lomachenko and Nagatani, well, they both have a common loss to Teofimo Lopez, the undefeated a lightweight champion. So it was interesting to see how Loma could then compare his performance to Nagatani to Lopez's competition with Nagatani. And that way Loma could then bounce back from the loss to Lopez, have an excellent opponent to then see where his skills are at and see if he's able to still bounce back and reach a new level and then contend against Teofimo Lopez for a second time. I think Lomachenko is actually, I've got the quote here. So he actually chose Nagatani, and he said the reason why he chose Nagatani was saying, I want to compare myself. I want to compare myself with this guy, as he was close with Lopez in their fight, and that's what he was attempting to do. He picked Nagatani because they had a common loss to Teofimo Lopez, and he wanted to compare how well he did compared to a competition between Lopez and Nakatani. And then following the fight, he made it pretty clear that he wanted to rematch Lopez. And he I believe I've got the quote here as well. He said, December, January, February, I'm waiting for Teofimo Lopez. So it looks like it sets up a rematch with Teofimo Lopez. It just depends how that goes with Teofimo Lopez's timeline for another contender. But that would be an amazing fight for boxing. It was already an amazing fight already, being Teofimo being the underdog, but largely respected in the boxing world. And then he beat Lomachenko, who was, cemented as one of the best in, today's boxing world. So it would be a very interesting fight for me personally as a boxing fan, to see that a second time and to see if Lomachenko can make the necessary changes against Teofimo Lopez. Yeah.
I believe he already did, because if he beats someone who had a close fight with Lopez and he puts him away in pretty spectacular fashion, then I do believe that he has a higher chance of building on that and coming back, because what he's doing is very smart. He's not going for the rematch straight away. He's going for a different opponent, building his skills upon that, getting a little bit more hype around him, So when the rematch actually comes, he's ready to go. And not even that, but what's important is when a loss happens and you build upon that and you get even better as a result. That's what makes him a much better boxer, and that's why he has a much better chance against Lopez. So I'll be excited to see that. I predict that they probably will get that fight. I feel like it might finish out the year. I feel like they might try and book that fight for December, or they might book it for November. One of the two, because I feel like that'll be a good time to have it, and also it's also past this whole what is it? Not we don't have long to go till what is it? Fury versus Wilder, obviously. Yes. So that's what everyone's sort of looking for next. And yeah, I mean, after that, I hope. But one thing I want is for Lopez versus Lomachenko 2. I don't want it to be a decision. I want there to be a knockout or a stoppage between it, because I didn't quite agree with the judges on the last one. I mean, one of the judges scored it ridiculously against for Lopez, and it wasn't that much of a loss, really. It was quite close between the two, but one of the judges scored it ridiculously, like 4 points or something against. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird on the scorecards last time. I think we mentioned that before. How strangely close the scorecards were, when in fact, if you watch that fight back, it wasn't that close, and it was quite weird in terms of the scoring. You know, what were the judges seeing? And I hope that doesn't happen for a second time. I think that's what a lot of people would be thinking about, specifically like the boxing fans.